Hey guys, Drifter here. Today I've got a video for you about the top 10 best changes to Warzone that could be done in less than a week. I get asked about this a lot on Twitter. What would you change about Warzone? How would you fix it? Or just generally complaining about a problem. And I decided to even ask the community what they would do if they could fix Warzone. And I got a lot of requests like remove skill-based matchmaking, recolor and relight the entire map to be less dark, add a competitive mode, update network quality, add true anti-cheats so there's less hackers. And I think that all of these are great things. All of these are things that I want in Warzone, but they also all take a very long time. Each one of those is a massive engineering project in and of itself, like engineering brand new anti-cheat from the ground up or redoing their server network structure is very expensive and at best would take a couple of months. So instead of that, today I wanted to talk about 10 easy changes that the developers at Raven could make to Warzone that would instantly improve the gameplay. Just little things such as changing a few lines of code variables here and there, turning a few things on and off, a little quality of life improvement that might go longer than you think, and each one of these is something that I think would take a dev team less than a week. If Raven were to add maybe even half of these changes to the next patch, I think it would be more exciting to the player base than a new weapon or map update or something like that. So without any further ado, let's start with number one. I think that we could remove stim shot until the stim glitch is properly fixed. Right now, literally nobody uses stims except for cheaters and fresh landers that are absolutely desperate and just grabbing whatever they can find off the ground. I have never seen one single player choose to use stim shots for late game gas ambushes, which is honestly kind of an annoying and almost game-breaking strategy anyway. I know that it's designed to let you move in the gas a little bit more, but I haven't seen good players actually actively choose that instead of a heartbeat sensor or a flashbang or something like that. Stim glitch just keeps coming back over and over and over. There's always people stimming infinitely or invincible in the gas. And at this point, Warzone without the stim glitch active is basically a limited time mode. Since the actual weapon, or I should say tactical itself, is already unpopular and very few people are using it in their loadouts except for cheaters, why not just vault it for now? I think the vast majority of players would never notice, except they would notice they don't get cheesed at the end. And I know that there would be some gamers that would be salty about unlocking something or it would be their favorite something and people would cry about it on Reddit, but it's so unpopular. I think you would do the game so much more good by removing an unbeatable glitch compared to just leaving in one item. Speaking of, let's talk about the Roze skin. I think the Roze skin should get an update that could be less dark, perhaps add a little bit of lighting to the shoulder areas. If I remember correctly, Infinity Ward had this problem during Infinite Warfare, so they added a little red and white lights to the shoulder areas of some of their operators. You could even add a little like outline, a little glow around the character, kind of like what you do with the weapons in the game, and I think that just makes a ton of sense. Perhaps some similar updates on other dark skins. At the very least, you could add a white or red or blue patch somewhere on them just so that they're not completely dark. They'll stand out a little bit in a closet, because right now Roze is practically invisible in most of the interior areas, and she's quite hard to see outside too, except maybe on the snow. She can blend in with trees, with the pavement, with shadows and closets. Camping with Roze skins is absurd. Every time I go into a building, I have to check every single dark corner, and not just scan it, but I mean check it carefully, because I feel like I'm hunting for the predator. Roze skin should be considered cheating if everybody wasn't already using it. It's just kind of standard. And I think that a lighting update on Roze skin to give her an outline, add a light to her shoulder, add a little white patch somewhere, would maybe not completely fix the problem, but very quickly alleviate it, and all you have to do is update the textures on the front of the model. Number 3 is to remove the gas mask animation, or maybe make it a toggle manual, like a manual toggle, so you hit a button to do it, or maybe you just slide it on once and that's kind of it. It's not as bad as it used to be. I remember the gas mask used to cancel your parachutes, but it's still very annoying when you're riding the line, when you're having those desperate fights, and the game just decides, yeah, you can't ADS, we're putting the mask on. Even if your health is good and you wouldn't want to put the mask on, it's going to put it on for you and make it where you can't ADS and everything kind of goes to pot. So you still even can't plate very well either. It'll cancel your plating. So I don't see why we couldn't take the gas mask and make it a manual toggle. That's easier on PC because there's a lot of keys. On a console, we'd probably be getting a little bit more creative with the buttons, but making it where you had to manually toggle it would be very interesting in my opinion. Or maybe it could just start working automatically without the switch. I totally get that the switch like logically makes sense. It's got a cool animation, it slides down, it's immersive in a sense, but it's immersive visually while breaking up gameplay. You don't want to break up the gameplay immersion, and people wouldn't cancel their life and death gunfight to fiddle with a mask, even if the gas was quite bad. So I think we could use a little bit of work on the gas mask. Number 4 is I think that loadout drop costs should be increased to $20,000 in trios and quads. It's a start. I know that right now loadouts are oddly getting unpopular, even though I think they're one of the better parts of Warzone. It's way too easy to get the loadout, get full perks and loadouts and trios and quads. If solo players can pay 10K for a loadout, then I don't see why quads couldn't pay 20 or even 25K for a loadout. Most of the teams in this game land and get their loadout in less than 2 minutes. I mean, as soon as I land, I'm hunting for money for that loadout. I'm not trying to fight people. Minutes after I land, I start seeing loadouts coming in from the air like crazy. And I feel like if I don't have a loadout before the first zone starts moving, which is about 3 or 4 minutes in, then it's just GG for me. I'm just totally screwed at that point and terrified. I think that loadouts are actually a good part of Warzone, and they're one of the reasons that Warzone is more successful than Blackout. No matter what YouTubers say in their, rose-colored nostalgia glasses, Blackout had a problem of having to fiddle with all of the attachments and kit your weapons and stuff. It was manageable on PC, but it was really hard to manage all those little attachments and fidgeting things on console. It could be very, very frustrating. So here in Warzone, we don't have attachments to fiddle with, and we can get our loadout so we can get our guns with our camo, with our perks and our setup. It gives you a great agency and feeling of control, and I think that that's kind of a good thing. You can even level the weapons you want, which is great. However, if they're very easy to get, the entire game is going to devolve into who can get the loadout the fastest, and it's just going to become a race to do that and then go blow up other teams. It's unhealthy gameplay when you can get your loadout in less than 2 minutes and then just go push other teams that are also struggling to get their loadout and not buying anything useful because they're desperate for the loadout money, and then you just roll in there and kill them like super fast. I think that just making the loadouts more expensive could alleviate this problem. Number 5 is another pretty simple one. I think that Dead Silence and Stopping Power need to go bye-bye. Dead Silence has actually 0 counterplay, and it resets upon killing an enemy, so theoretically you could wipe one person out of squad and never make a noise. Battle Royales, pretty much all of them function on informational awareness, and the ability to make good tactical decisions based on information is a key component of this game for older gamers or less experienced gamers that aren't going to have the Twitch reactions of a Twitch streamer. Getting a little bit redundant there. But when you completely remove something like, say, sound, that's fundamental to you understanding your environment, you're breaking the awareness system of the game, and it skews gameplay radically. And there's no counterplay. There's no way to know that somebody with Dead Silence is rushing you, especially since they will almost certainly have Ghost. The only thing you can do is just set up an army of mines and claymores everywhere and hope that they trigger them, but that's not fun gameplay in and of itself. Stripping away a key portion of situational awareness from any combat is just a bad idea for gameplay. It'll feel great to the Dead Silence guy. They'll think that they're amazing, like galaxy brain stuff for having that so they can rush you, but it's really something that's quite easy to do. And on that same note, Stopping Power has the same problem, if not even worse. There's literally no counterplay to enjoy the free damage that you got out of a box. You can't buy Stopping Power, you just find it randomly. So you just randomly get a ton of free bonus damage that shreds people. It punches through armor. You can't even tell that the enemies have it unless you're staring at your health bar while you're getting shot, but not like that matters because you're going to die almost instantly. The time to kill is already incredibly fast, but when you load Stopping Power into the AUG or FFAR or MAC-10 or whatever, you just truly shred people. It does make your guns kick a little bit more, but that's not going to matter compared to how fast you're killing people, and there's no counterplay. Armor doesn't help, health doesn't help, you can't outstim it, you can't even react to it in most cases. I really don't think that Dead Silence and Stopping Power are things that should be in this particular Battle Royale game. I think that they're very unfair in that regard, and I think that a lot of people would be happy if they were removed. Let's talk about a little bit of weapon balancing here. I think that the FFAR is too strong. It blows people up close. It still works great at long ranges. And I think that there's 2 simple things that could be done to make it better. Number 1, you could slightly increase the recoil. Doesn't have to be crazy inaccurate, but it's still kind of a laser right now. And number 2, slightly decrease the firing speed. You could actually lower the RPM, which would thus lower the time to kill. And with a little bit more kick and a little bit less speed, it would be harder to use at long ranges and a little bit less melty up close, but still probably good. The FFAR would still retain its absolutely filthy headshot multiplier and have an extremely fast time to kill for headshots, which I think would make it very popular and good up close, but it would of course require more skill, and I think that's a fair thing. We could probably take the MAC-10, this is number 8, and slightly decrease the firing speed, the same thing, because the MAC-10 just shreds a little bit too hard. We want to pull it down back in line more with the modern warfare weapons like the MP5, which doesn't kill that much slower, and it would give a little bit of variety to close quarters combat, since right now it's like 90% FFAR and maybe 10% MAC-10. On the topic of burst rifles, which would be number 9 today, I think the easiest way to fix them would just simply be to increase the burst delay, make them similar to the modern warfare FAMAS burst delay, and maybe slightly decrease the headshot damage. The reason, in my opinion, that people use these guns is that the recoil is overall pretty low, and that the burst delay is low enough to spam them really, really fast, so that when you're shooting them, you feel like you're just dumping bullets downstream, and on the receiving end, when you're being shot by them, it feels like you're getting hammered by a full auto rifle that's dealing a ton of weapon damage. Sometimes I feel like I'm getting shot by multiple people at a time. So increasing this burst delay to make it longer delays between shots will make the weapon seem less spammy on the receiving end, and on the using end, it's going to make it a little bit more of a precision weapon and a little bit less of an instant blow people up. Same kind of idea with the headshot damage, that's just going to lower your average time to kill a little bit. Headshot damage was just absurd on these weapons. 72 a pop in a 250 health game is way too much in my opinion. So it would be 4 shots, just more than 1 burst, no armor, would be an insta-kill. I think that they could be slowed down just a little bit. They don't have to be nerfed, they don't even have not be better, they can still be good, they just don't need to be absurd. Number 10 is a small and simple one. Can we get rid of the fists in the Gulag, or make it maybe super rare? I think I had 4 fist-only Gulags in a row, and that's not fun because they're effectively lag fights. It's about who can get the first hit in, whose timing is just right on sync and doesn't miss, and the connection loves, and there doesn't feel like there's a lot of skill to the fist fights in the Gulag. So I think we could use a little bit less fist fights in the Gulag, and this time around they've been very heavy on these one-shot weapons, but not the fun ones, not cowboy rifles and crossbows, just a lot of shotguns and stuff. We could probably use less insta-kill fights in the Gulag and less lag-dependent ones like the Fist. So I would pull those for number 10. And then for a bonus, number 11, a plate forgiveness system would be lovely. I do like that enemies drop a plate, but it's very frustrating when my plate has taken 1% of damage and I can see like 1 missing pixel, and I go to put a new plate in, and it just covers that 1 pixel and it's wasted. It really can kind of get me in trouble in gunfights when I'm desperate to conserve plates. That could just be made like Apex Legends with the little shield batteries, to where if I, let's say one of my plates was half cracked, I could put a plate in and it would just be a new plate and the half cracked one would be there, so it'd have 1.5. It's effectively more health. This is something that we've been asking for since the beginning of time, and since the time to kill is super fast, now would be a great time to do it, because it would help mitigate that problem as well. And those are my 10 simple fixes for Warzone that I think that developers could do in a relatively short period of time. I think the only one that would take a super long time is maybe testing the weapon balances or the Roze skins, but a lot of these things are simple removals or price or number changes that just promote healthier gameplay. If you agree with me, make your opinions known on social media, but politely. We do not encourage harassment of developers or anybody else here. Just say what you think you would like to see in the game, and I honestly believe if you said it nicely, you'd get a lot more attention than anything else. If you enjoyed, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. Drifter out.